Okay, so by now you know I do these programs, and usually I pick a subject that's near and dear to my heart. So the way I got into Explorers is I've been building planes. I built OLE-2s and built other balsa wood gliders, and then finally I built a kind of a DLG type plane to do thermal duration with, and it didn't do too well. And I realized when I bought an old used Supra and I started to just fly like 3 times better. So I realized I had stepped on the slippery slope of buying pre-made planes. And so I always thought, well, once I do the Supras, I should graduate to the big boy planes, the Explorers. And I kept thinking, boy, I bet you I can buy a used Explorer at some point. And finally I decided the day had come, and then Rich Duder made me a great deal on his Explorer 1, which is the yellow plane here, a 4-meter plane. So I might talk about that as it might refer to what these Tim and Don are talking about. But so I am now an Explorer pilot, and I think partly the thinking was that a lot of people are moving to F5J, so I think more and more Explorers will come on. So it's like basically the best thermal duration plane of the last 5 years or so is going to be easy to get a hold of. So I think it's a terrific time to be getting into Explorers. And I'm just super glad to get Rich's plane. But what I thought to do is to have a little panel discussion about Explorers. They have a long history, and it's very confusing with the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and which parts are interchangeable. So I thought I'd have Tim and Don come up and talk about it. They're my go-to guys for repairs and launching and crashing and flying and all the various things. So guys, why don't you maybe start by just explaining what Explorers you have and how long you've had them?
Sure. Actually, I started with an Explorer 1 about 5 years ago. It was my first real, like you're saying, it's the first full sort of competitive airplane. A little on the heavy side, but it's like identical to this. Yeah, I just noticed we were calling yours a spread toe. That really got me hooked. I took the tail off of it twice, learning to zoom properly. I did it once at a contest and landed inverted perfectly. It was really cool, except for the repair part. But that got me hooked. And then since then I have a total, I think, of 5. So I have the that Explorer, which a wing decided to part on. It was my fault. And then I got a Explorer 2, which is, actually it's a 2.5, which is similar to the white one, but a little bit heavier. They're about 65 ounces, and really just flipped out on that one. That I still fly that today. I've had it maybe 5 years, 4 years. I had it right after the other one, and it's just a, I'm sorry, mine's about 62 ounces. And these are typically 70. I don't know what yours is. Yours is the spread toe.
Yeah, it came in like 67.
The first version was 100 ounces before they went to spread toe. This one over here is 55 ounces. And just as rigid. It just blows me away. When I crashed the wingtip of the old one, I noticed that the construction is just amazing. Every detail, trying to make it lighter but stiff. And that's what they've done over the last few years. The first Explorer was in 2005, this 100-ounce one. Wing loading was about 8.5 ounces per square foot. And then they came out with this one, which was closer to 7 ounces per square foot. And the new ones are just below 6 ounces per square foot. And the electrics, they started out, I had one of the first Explorer 2.5 electrics, similar to that. It was 56 ounces, got 2 of those. And then the brand new ones are 4 meter instead of 3.8, and they're 38 to 42 ounces, just around 4 to 4.5 ounces per square foot. And it's amazing flying that type of airplane. Extremely light.
Those are Explorers with an EX on the front.
Yeah, they're the E-Explorer. I had a Explorer Electric, which is basically this airplane with a motor and a lighter spar. So they come out about the same weight as a new Explorer now, 55, 56 ounces.
So Tim, you want to talk about, we'll jump back and forth, but what planes have you owned, and which was your experience with this one?
my first Explorer was an X1, just about like that one, which I managed to put in and completely destroy. So moved to an X, probably a 2.5. So what's the difference between a 2 and a 2.5? They changed the wingtips on them.
The flying tail adds to the elevator.
Okay, yeah, the fuselage may be a little different. Yeah,
It gets confusing. I spent an hour on the phone with Alex Bro, and he gave me the whole
I
background.
had both.
He's the son of Bob Bro, of Soaring USA.
Yeah,
The first Explorer 1 is like this, but now if you can order an Explorer 1, but the fuselage is like that. So the whole thing is the wing. The Explorer 1 has a thicker, blunter leading edge. The Explorer 2.5 on, or actually 2 on, have a thinner, much better penetration wing. And then when they did the 3, they got rid of the upturned tips, which I'm grateful for because I damage them all the time. I'm sorry, interrupted you.
no worries. Yeah, I thought they get rid of the tips because of shipping. They're having all kinds of trouble with shipping.
Well, the scientific reason is it does help in the zoom. At high speeds, it does better. This theoretically thermal's better, but to me, shipping and damage is the main reason.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Just a pain. Every one I've ever had, that little tips get little nicks on them.
Yeah.
You're pretty lucky.
Yeah, Rich took a really good care.
Yeah. This thing looks brand new.
Yeah.
So Tim, you had anything else to add on it?
So, and I currently have an X2, which I'm flying, which is pretty beat up, and I also have an X3, so.
Okay.
And by the way, there's 2 versions of the X3. The X3, the original. Then they came out with this one, which they call it 3.5. And the difference is the fuselage is a lot thinner, and the tail is a little bit shorter. Nose is a little longer. It takes 0 nose weight. This one, in the tip, you have about 2 ounces of lead poured just in the factory in the nose. These this one had to go from, I had to put a slightly less size battery to make it balance. It just blew me away. But they're really tight in the nose. I'll show you guys what the nose on that one looks like. But you can't just put any old receiver, because you have that, right? You had to take the case off?
Yeah, I run Spectrum, and I had to take the case off. Well, I wanted a telemetry receiver.
Yeah.
The only way to make it fit in there was take the plastic case off the thing. So
Yeah.
I've got a circuit board.
And then
Basically
mine
inside.
has I think a Kevlar nose, so on yours, you have to poke them out this,
Yeah.
the antenna's out.
Full carbon.
Yeah. So I take it with all these types, they're a bit interchangeable? Like sometimes you can put switch wings on different numbers?
They're all interchangeable.
They're all
Yeah.
interchangeable, okay.
Yeah. The same spacing. They do a cool thing. At the bottom of the wing, they have a little like saddle adjuster, so it's independent of airfoil. So that's the part that bolts in. It's really secure.
A standard shape.
Yeah, so they can change anything. And yeah, I've done that. I have an electric X1 that I put a X2.5 wing on, and just fine.
Okay. And how do you match the type? Like what, I mean, does everyone just go to the fanciest ones they can afford, or can you go, is there a reason to go to Explorer 2 rather than a 3 or 3.5 or 2.5?
They sell the 1, 2.5, and the 3, and there's not that much difference in price. So it's really whatever you want to do. One thing about the Explorer 1 and 2, they have a huge inventory of spare parts of the 1 and 2. When I was talking to Alex a couple days ago, they at Soaring USA are having, if you call them, you can get a really cool price. Like wingtips, $150. Fuselage is about the same. So that's one of the advantages of a 1 or a 2. The parts are really inexpensive.
So
And even the 1's competitive, as you know, right?
wingtips on the 3, 6-month wait, $750.
For me, it was only 3 months, but I didn't abuse them like some people. No. They must have forgotten about you.
I
Yeah.
didn't push on them very hard, obviously. So
Yeah.
So why did they dominate the last, I mean, that's 2005 you said, so that's
2005
15
they started.
years.
Yeah.
And they're still winning the thermal duration contest?
They keep evolving. So, like I said, they're what, 60% of the weight that they used to have. And they each keep improving the design. So it's evolution rather than, revolution.
Yeah.
And like in the F3J, which is the winch launched, very competitive event, they had our entire team and backup were all Explorers. And they're not sponsored or anything, they just do it. So
Was there a downside to Explorers? I mean, there a reason why people don't buy Explorers these days?
because everybody else has one. Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah. Actually, I was looking at getting a Maxa.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that Soaring USA does, their service is amazing. I've called both Alex, Bob, and Annette, who's the coordinator, and to me, their service is impeccable. It just blows me away. Kennedy Composites is the importer of the Maxa, and everybody that deals with them go, well, he's on vacation, or it's like, or the part, he doesn't have them in stock, et cetera, et cetera. So I just got another Explorer rather than go through that hassle. I just like the look of the Maxa. It's a very competitive airplane. And that's probably the other reason people are sticking with the Explorer is we know we can get support. I had a big problem with a electric, and I just called them up and said, ship me another one. I got it in 3 days. It was, it's that sort of service. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about, do you know much about NAN, the company NAN? And
Yeah, they were
Bulgaria?
founded in 2000, at the same time Soaring USA was. They mainly did slope soarers, but in 2005 they entered the F3J TD with the first Xplorer 1. And the rest is sort of history. In 2010 they improved it by making it spread toe, which is this one. So they got it from 100 ounces down to the 70 we see here. And just everything since then, they've just been making improvements every few years. Mine's a 2017. I was talking to a guy at a contest once that works for Soaring USA, and he says, you almost have to tell them what month you bought it, because they keep making little improvements to it. But it just, I think they were there at the right time, and they just kept on improving. Soaring USA actually started at the same time. There's an old company that's no longer here called Northwest Soaring. I don't know if you guys know that. They were noted for their horrible customer service. I just went through our RC groups and looked at some posts from like 2000.
Northeast.
Northeast Sailplanes? Yeah, Northeast, not Northwest.
Northeast, I'm sorry. I'm a West Coast guy, but yeah, Northeast Sailplanes. And Bob Bro and his son Alex, they fly this one plane from Valencia Models, and they just loved it. And Northeast Soaring decided to stop importing it. And they called them and said, well, how can we get it? So they gave them the contact information, and they started importing it just as a pop and son outfit in 2000. And it was a 2-meter slope soarer. And that started Soaring USA. And in 2005, they linked up with NAN and were the distributor for that. They now have, if you ever go in the catalog, they have more airplanes than I can count. They probably have 25 competitive F3J TD. They have the same amount of slope. It just boggles the mind. And they really do a good job of customer relationship with their vendors. A good example is I can't name the company, but there was a company that made the #1 selling F5J electric. And the company that was importing it was not being financially honest with them, like shortchanging and late. And so in about 2 months, Soaring USA is going to pick up this added vendor because of trust, just because that's what they work on. And they said, no, we'll cut you a check ahead of time. Don't worry about, we'll send you a money order rather than getting financial differences. And so they're picked up another amazing line of products just that way. So we're going to see in about 2 months, we're going to see that coming up as well. So
So what do you think the NAN Models did in terms of like getting airfoil designs or the design? I mean, do they have aerospace people there, or do they copy?
Well, all of the Eastern Europe, when the Iron Curtain fell, which is about 2000, it's not a coincidence that Jetty, all the companies you can think of that are into this, formed around 2000 where the Berlin Wall fell. When the Iron Curtain went down, you had a bunch of aerospace engineers didn't have a job. So a lot of them started these companies, NAN, like I said, Jetty, pretty much any Eastern Europe. That's why the Eastern Europe, and I know in pattern that I fly too, Russia is big in composite airplanes in that area. And it's because a lot of people said, we need to jump on something so we can put food on the table. And these guys were modelers and engineers and machinists. And that's really how, in about 2000, you saw all this development in Eastern Europe. It's pretty fascinating.
Where in a way, the American stuff was a lot of Mark Dorella designs, right, that just were kind of copied over and over again in some ways? Or?
Well, actually we have Rich Spicer, he actually created the methods that these are all built upon. The foam, these are all built hollow core. It's a layer of carbon. This one's spread toe, that's unidirectional, but same idea. Carbon, thin layer of foam, special foam, Rochelle, another thin layer of carbon. Rich Spicer actually created that along with live hinges and a bunch of other things. But back in the late 80s, they could only sell them for about $800, $700. And it was really a hard sell, and it wasn't until later that people accepted the composite airplanes. And so even though the US actually was, like radios, all of our radios were based on Kraft, Proline, those guys. Same thing with this.
But the pricing just kind of forced it offshore.
The price is quite a bit higher, yeah.
So what advice do you have, like setting it up maybe, or what kind of components to use, servos, radios, and?
I've been talking enough. What do you do?
Okay, setup. So again, I fly Spectrum. So there's a guy, Sherman Knight. I don't know if he's a Spectrum employee or not, but he wrote a, well, it's not exactly a program, but the way to set up a Spectrum radio is based on Sherman Knight and all. So I have 5 different modes that I have. So there's launch mode, a speed mode, reflex, so that wings in section, thermal mode, so that the flaps and ailerons are down slightly, and then landing mode, yeah, so the flaps come down.
Yeah.
So all the stuff I did was based on what Sherman Knight did, and then as far as
like the $20 you spend to get the program from them, right? That you get the documentation. So what?
The templates.
Yeah.
You can actually download them if you're a Spectrum person.
no, I didn't spend any money.
Oh, okay.
It's free.
It was online.
Okay, because the Sherman, I buy Sherman Knight programs for $20, and you get a little
Yeah, you get a book and
and you get
4 or 5 templates depending on the configuration of the
Oh,
airplane.
okay.
Then you just download the template into your receiver and
Yeah.
tweak it a little and away you go.
Yeah.
No, I started with a Sherman Knight that I downloaded, and I didn't.
Yeah,
I got
he
this.
used to do it as, in fact, I think he even wrote the manual for a while for Spectrum. Or JR, maybe it was JR, we used to write.
Yeah, he used to be a JR
the
guy.
whole section. Yeah.
Yeah. Programming JR and Spectrum are very ideological, similar.
Yeah,
But I'm actually backing away from that because he puts in all these tricks, like audio tricks and things connected to something else. And the problem is if you don't really understand the program, it can get you, it can bite you later on when you change something else. I mean, it's not that his program is wrong, but when you try to mess with it, sometimes I've gone back to simpler programs. Anyway, that's my point.
Yeah.
Now, about 80% of people fly his style. The other 20% or so of us fly a different style. Like I have 3 modes only: launch, cruise, and landing. So in my mode, my throttle stick controls speed and controls camber in all three modes. So to me, it's a little simpler, but it's not every radio can program that because it takes a lot of mixing to get them all working the same. But it's just a different way of doing it, same results.
But the throttle's like a big slider, huh? It just
Yeah, I don't use sliders at all. In fact, I hate sliders.
Oh.
Yeah, I just don't use them.
And so it's in the middle position, like you go forward, you go speed and back.
What I have, like in thermal, I have a little buzzer. So at about 2/3 stick is my neutral, everything's flat.
Yeah.
Then speed is above that, and then full back is camber. So I actually, in turns, I'll be changing camber as I feel the lift change. Which is like landing,
Yeah.
except I don't have, my landing is a separate mode. I go into that, I go.
It's like you drop the flaps a little bit.
When I have full forward, it's speed mode, then it goes into camber mode, then it goes into crow.
Yeah.
Little different, a little harder to program, but I can't deal with a bunch of switches, just must be getting old.
Yeah.
But the way Tim does it is by far the most prevalent thing, but I also fly mode 1, so,
And then how about setting these up? Do you set them up yourself, or do you have Soaring USA set them up as far as it installed servos?
Yeah, when you get these, there's no instructions, which is my big pet peeve. You go online and you build one, you realize what you did wrong, and build it and redo it. Like I didn't even know how to stuff a wing bag when I first, you're left on your own. But there's a lot of pictures and details on RC groups on setting them up. And a lot of people do different ways. There's huge challenges with the new X3.5 because you have a weight that's actually a bar, and you got to go in there. And I've seen a lot of people put their servos where you can't get the bar in, for example. Yeah. So you got to do some planning ahead of time. I'll show you guys the setup I have.
It is funny. It's almost like they design something that you have to be kind of smart to figure out how everything's going to fit in.
Or at least
With a
research
thinner
it.
fuselage.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I had to go to a smaller rudder servo just to get everything to fit right. Yeah.
How about in the wings? Is the airfoil thickness adequate to be able to fit the servo in there? Or-
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
oh, yeah.
funny. What they do, I'll show you on this one. They have a little blister on the bottom, and a lot of guys don't put the blister. They use just plain plastic. See if I can do this without hurting it. Or hurting that one.
Don, do you have the servos mounted on removable trays? Or
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah.
Not everybody does.
Babies.
So here's this one. This is the way it comes from the factory. It has little blisters, so you can get the arm a little in there. A lot of people just opt for slightly smaller, so they don't need the blister. But I use ball bearing mounts on everything. It only adds like 2 grams per servo, and it takes the load off. But it's really pretty simple. I'll show you that. So they're actually pretty easy to install. And here's what I talked about the nose. See how there's just no room. So I fly free sky, and luckily they make a really small receiver with S-Bus, which I use for all the controls. So I only have one 3-wire connector going back. But see how I laid this servo on its side? Because I got to get a bar through here.
For your ballast.
For ballast, yeah.
Yeah, the bar full weighted on about this thick. So you can ballast these, like this is 55 ounces, you can ballast them over 90 ounces. In fact, Bob McGowan flies these in competition, and he often goes to 90 ounces in a breeze.
What's your
He
wing
goes-
position?
Huh? Well,
Behind you.
he goes 5 miles down, it seems, then is able to penetrate up without weight. Right, I'm gonna put this like this.
So as long as-
Hanger rash is it.
I'm gonna, as long as you're doing.
Push that down.
Yeah, probably. Thank you.
Don't
Stay.
stay down.
Now, though. Thanks.
So as long as we're doing a little show and tell, I'll mention my repair. So Tim's been coaching me about putting the flaps up on every landing. I've never had flaps before, so I'm just bad about it. I probably hit up 50% of the time. And this had this little rod was got ripped out by landing at one time without flaps. It wasn't me, but it was Rich. It was the only repair I didn't do. But it was kind of tricky to get it all bubble epoxy, micro balloons and epoxy and get it all sorted out. But I was really worried that I was going to break it like on the first flight. But I think it's Don or Tim told me you might want to put a rubber band on the flap throttle. Which I was, and now it's not a problem at all.
Yeah, your Super is not as critical
Yeah,
with a
it
higher
wasn't because
wing.
it was higher wing, yeah.
Yeah.
So now this one would crack every time, so fortunately, that was,
You know what I did when I first did? I have a Radiant Pro, which isn't a really cool, it's really not a really good airplane, but it's foam. So if I drag a flap, no big deal.
Yeah.
Just a little bit
so
of
you
foam.
get some
So
bad habits.
I typically go out and I'll have a timer. I do like 1 minute flights timed with a spot, and then 10 seconds later I launch again. So I do that. I can put about 100 to 200 flights in a day, like a couple hours.
Yeah.
And that really taught me. It becomes natural.
Yeah.
You may about rather screw up the foamy in one of these. So
It's good to learn something less
Excuse me.
expensive. So do you guys have any advice on buying these? I mean,
Rich Duder.
yeah, buying used. So would you say buying used is probably the way to go these days?
I bought my first one used.
Yeah.
Really glad I did, because like I said, learning to launch. Later I found out I had a rotator cuff injury. They later replaced both of them. And I was buckling my arm on launch, and the stab was hitting my head. Or timing. It's really hard to do, the whole timing thing. And learning it on a plane that isn't that expensive.
Yeah, it's a good
Like Peter's going to be selling his, I believe, his new.
He sold it.
Oh, he did.
Oh.
Because it's too pristine.
Yeah.
He was afraid of doing what I
And
did.
Bob McGowan's selling 2 of them too. And I was kind of excited about buying Bob McGowan's one, but then I was told Bob is pretty tough on his plane. He repairs them really well.
Yeah. They're actually a good deal. I've seen those.
Yeah. But he does work
Yeah,
hard.
he's actually concentrating now on electric, which is.
Well, that was my last topic. I don't know if it's too soon, but it does seem like Explorers dominated this F3J, right? And now it's switching to F5J, and they're not quite catching the next wave.
Well, they actually, when I was talking to Alex a couple nights ago, he was saying that in Europe, they're winning most of the big contests.
Thermal
Explorers.
duration.
Yeah, no, we're talking F5J now. Yeah,
F5J.
it's given that F3J.
Oh, so the Explorers are.
Explorer is. The problem with the Explorer,
E-Explorer.
the E-Explorer uses that airfoil, and it's not the best penetrating.
It's kind of floaty, right?
Well, yeah, it's, like I fly F5J, up the electrics, and there's a lot of strategies. Sometimes you want to go out a quarter mile and catch a wave lift or whatever, and be able to penetrate out further. Explorers are a real disadvantage, so that's one of the reasons there's a lot of new airplanes. Like I have an El Nino that has a 7% and it goes down to 5% at the tip airfoil, and just penetrates like crazy at 35 ounces for a 4-meter airplane.
Yeah.
So a lot of the new ones, when you get down to the 40 ounce, they get too floaty. So I think we're going to see from Explorer, if I'm guessing, in the next year or so, a thinner wing for the electrics.
So they'll innovate to catch
Yeah,
up.
because all the competition has, like 5 to 7% wings
And
that
then-
are designed for that.
And then would you guess that the thermal duration type planes will be coming more and more on sale as used planes?
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
They may all be on sale when we have to have, 250-gram airplanes.
Yeah, 400 feet, right?
Yeah, we'll all be sloping 2 foot,
So it's the golden age for Explorers, better hurry.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's really hard to predict.
yeah.
Yeah, my first, actually, my second Explorer was I bought it from Aaron Lewis. It was an Explorer 2, and I was a little afraid it was going to go obsolete soon. What turned out, it lasted like 2 or 3 years before anything else came out, and it was just marginally not it was like 63 ounces instead of 61. You know, it was,
Yeah, so
Not a
that
big deal.
pilot error would make up any
yeah.
difference like that.
And I wasn't that good of a flyer, it still probably wouldn't matter. I don't think people can notice 5 ounces personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not enough difference in the wing loading.
Okay. Well, anything else you guys want to add to this talk? Any, I think I got
Let me
my
just go
notes.
through. Oh,
Yes.
one thing is, they have these in 4 sizes, just so you know.
Oh,
The
yeah, we
electric,
didn't touch on that.
yeah, the electric has a 3/8 and a 4 meter. The 4 meter's new. And there's 2 versions of the electric. The Xplorer electric is
You mean with
slight-
no E
huh?
on the front?
No E in the front.
Oh.
That's in the standard 3.5, 3.7, 3.8, and 4 meter. That one's a little heavier. It's about a 50-ounce airplane. It has the Xplorer 2, 3 airfoil, and
So if
the
you're gonna
Xplorer,
mix and match this
Yeah.
this generation.
and the fuselage is pretty much the same. The Xplorer, the brand new one, they only make a 3, 8, and a 4. The fuselage is half the thickness of that one. It's just microscopic. I mean, they've shrunk it to a minimum, and they've gotten that down. The 4 meter, they can get down to 38 ounces. So you're talking about a kilogram
Yeah.
for a plane that has 1,300.
And that's interesting. You said they are really competitive in Europe.
They are, but personally, I fly an Explorer and a El Nino that has the much thinner wing. The El Nino can get lift much easier than the Explorer. The only downside is these thin airplanes are really hard to see. When, the wing is only
Coming
half
towards you.
inch, and the fuselage is a little bit bigger than a quarter. So when it's coming at you a quarter mile away, so I have to do weaving and things. So if the lift is good, I put that away and get out the Explorer. They're just getting too thin to be able to see. So visibility, and that's why I prefer the 4 meter to any of the others. Just because I tend to fly pretty far out, like a half mile or more. And
And the advice I heard was go 4 meters if you can. right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The flaps, I think, are better. The 3.5 has a shorter center section and shorter tips.
Yeah.
The 3.7 has the 4 center section and the 3.5 tips. The flaps are much more effective, but the ailerons suffer.
Mm.
And the 3.8 has the 3.5 center section, the narrower one, and the big tips, so the flaps aren't quite effective. I really like the 3.8s, but when I first flew a 4 meter, it was like, wow. My spots are much more predictable, and especially at a lighter weight.
And is there a reason they topped out at 4? Do you think we'll ever see?
That's
bigger
as big as you can go in competition.
Oh, so
Now, you can go TD, you can go, I think you can go to like 2,500 square inches or something, but it's really based on the FAI rules of 4
okay, so
meters.
these are about as big as you'll see.
Yeah, that's about as big. You can buy, like Soaring USA has like a Thermix XL, which is a 4.5 or 5 meter, and that's legal in TD as long as it's under the 11 pounds, but it's a bit of a pig. Yeah. And that's Valencia, that's the same company that first got Soaring USA started back in 2000, and Valencia is also the company that Soaring USA helped create, because they went from 3 people to 45 people
Wow.
in about 5 years, just that relationship. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, any other questions?
I'm just gonna,
Oh,
I've got a question. What airfoils do they use? Are they proprietary airfoils?
I'm sorry, what?
The airfoils, are they proprietary
Yeah.
airfoils or are they derivative of something else?
Yeah, they're actually
Yes,
derived
yes, probably.
from experience more than anything. Like when they went from the 1 airfoil to the 2, which is the same airfoil as on the 3, they just wanted a little better penetration.
Yeah.
And so they just thinned it slightly and thinned up the nose. And they wanted to be able to balance further aft.
Do you know what their starting point was when they,
The what?
the starting point for their airfoil, where they,
No,
where
they
started
moved it
from?
back, in the Explorer 3, and like I said, they made the nose pointier, but it was not, it was just like taking airfoils into a wind tunnel and just fooling around. There wasn't much,
so they
theoretical.
didn't start with some modification of a Drilla or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. It's not, and they're kind of secretive about it too.
They
right?
are, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if they look at the airfoil, it's X2 or X1.
Yeah, that's right. This is the name of the
Yeah.
airfoil.
Pretty much everybody's that way on the airfoil. Typically they take a Drela airfoil and tweak it. Yeah, that's usually,
Not the sight of the boss's tennis shoe, huh?
yeah. The reason they went for the X1 airfoil on the new E electrics was they found that these planes don't fly real well below about 52 ounces. I don't know why they would put a thicker, blunter airfoil on it, but again, in testing, they found the X1 airfoil worked better. Plus, they had the mold.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was actually happy to hear that this is a little slower, a little floatier.
yeah. I
It's
found
perfect for me.
when I went from the X1 to the X2, I instantly noticed I don't know if you've seen on landing where I've had people say, "Oh, you're not going to make it," and
Oh, yeah. They
Yeah.
cruise in from 100 yards out.
Mhm.
Just,
yeah. What I also do is I get in ground effect. I get about a foot up.
yeah.
And come in. But yeah, it's amazing. The other thing about the Explorer that's really the key to their success is I've caught thermals coming in for landing and can be circling literally 10 feet just on a wingtip. And I don't worry about stalling. I don't worry about tip. I've never had anything negative happen to the airplane.
No.
And they're a pussycat of an airplane. So they're very competitive, but they're the easiest airplane I've ever flown. And it just, I never worry about, I've caught thermals at like 10 feet. And I don't worry about it. I just put it on the wingtip and do it. I think you have the same experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
No
you kept
bad
telling me, I didn't
habits.
believe you guys, that that's an easy plane to fly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they just look so intimidating.
And I think they have the right amount of, washout and airfoil changes where they're high performance, but they're just a pussycat. They're just, they're probably the easiest plane to fly. They're a little bit of a bear to get turned out perfectly.
Yeah.
The CG, you want to get it within a couple of millimeters correct. Like when I bought an Xplorer 1, the guy was flying at 115 centimeters back. Most people fly at 120 to 125. When I moved it back that much, it went from being a pig, I couldn't land, to just being a dream. It was just amazing.
Huh. Mine's at 120, and I thought it was supposed
That's
to
a
be
little forward, yeah.
132 or something.
No, that's the Explorer 3.5. You want to be at about 130. This one's at about 129 to 133. They become like, McGowan likes a little unstableness.
Yeah.
These, you want to be at about 125.
Okay,
That's
so I'm
the
a
sweet
little
spot.
conservative right now. I
Yeah.
should maybe back it up.
And what I just do is I test it, see how it flies. The biggest difference I find is in landing. When I had this plane, I originally had it at 125 millimeters, so I just went from 120, just, what is that, a little over an eighth of an inch difference. I went from not being able to land it where it was just perfect, just by that little tweaking. Because I set it up like my Explorer 2s, and they're
So
different.
Would you creep down? Like I'm at 120. Should I go just automatically try 125?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Just go back. You know what Rich does? He tapes a weight, just tapes a weight to the back,
And tries it out.
and plays around with it. On this one, I had to actually put a different battery in. I had to lose an ounce out of the nose.
Oh yeah. Speaking of batteries, I'm using Lifes or whatever LIFE.
Yeah,
is.
that's great.
Is that what you guys use?
I use Tesla batteries, the the LiPo in a case,
Okay.
really safe, and I run everything high
And is it
voltage.
It's 2S or?
Yeah, 2S.
2S.
And you get high voltage servos?
Yeah, so that's all the servos are high voltage. I use KSTs for the flap and elevator, and MKS, the little 6100s for rudder and aileron. Just, they're an amazing servo, and they're relatively cheap, and they're really light. They're like 10 grams.
It was kind of funny because when I was buying these used planes, it seemed like a lot of them had aerotronics servos. Like I didn't even know they were making. Are they in business and making
No.
servos? Okay.
But they're actually were Sanwa servos. But it looks like aerotronics is leaving the airplane market. They're concentrating on, they own the car market.
Oh,
You have an
cars.
electronics or a sound car radio, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. And they just
Car,
dominate.
like motorized cars on the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
But
Should change the name Cartronics or something.
The Aerotronics radios are rock solid, they're really good, but they never have telemetry, they don't.
They kind of stopped innovating, right?
So they've stopped innovating probably 8 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever.
S10 came out in '08.
Say again?
The S10, SD10 came
Great
out
radio.
in '08.
Yeah, but it's,
Still
the-
12 years, yeah.
it has some problems, it doesn't really, it's not designed for VTL mixing. Rich is pulling his hair out, he has to do mechanical mixing with it. And like, I use telemetry all the time. I wanna know how high my launch is, so I have a momentary switch. When it gets off, I hit it, it gives me the max height that I was at. So I go, oh damn, 135, so I have to do something different. For electric, I wanna be able to know what 50 meters looks like, or 100 meters. I don't use it in contests, but in practice, it's amazing because I can look at an airplane now and go, yeah, it's 125, yeah, roughly. And so telemetry to me is a big deal. I had when I was flying my JR, it had voice telemetry. I had just done a launch and it said low battery at an LIFE with a puff cell, and it was fine when I launched. And right at launch, I landed and it was like 5.8 volts, you know, just ready to kill. And that convinced me that telemetry was really a cool thing, regardless of, even just a beep alarm. I have a Spectrum 18 non-voice. It's the same thing with it. It gives me a beep alarm when I, low voltage and things like that. It's really, I think, revolutionized, sailplanes in particular.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Walter. Yeah,
Just for each entity, manufacturer, distributor, where to buy, who are they?
Well, these guys, NAM is in Bulgaria. Again,
NAN Models.
NAM. I don't know what it means. It's just.
And they're the manufacturer?
Yeah, they're the manufacturer. Actually, a guy, Nicholas Nikolov. So that's probably, I bet his middle initial is A, the middle initial. And then Soaring USA is in Orange County.
They're this-
Culver,
US.
something, I forgot. Anyway, they're local.
They're in West Covina.
Huh?
They're in Covina.
Covina, thank you. That's right.
Yeah.
And they're, like I said, they're a real good business to deal with. Between them, Horizon, Aloft, just solid gold performers. Just high tech too. I don't trust their radios, but they're like servos and stuff. Their service is impeccable, all of those companies.
The survivors.
Yeah. Well, in fact, high tech doesn't make radios anymore. So,
Oh.
yeah. They got the word.
When did Annette come back?
Say again?
When did Annette come back?
Annette came.
You said Soaring USA that Annette was back?
Well, Annette is their office coordinator.
Since when?
I'm sorry.
When did she come back?
Yeah, he didn't know, he thought she left.
She left
If you-
twice.
I was just talking with Alex 2 days ago. I mentioned Annette, and he didn't say that, oh, she's not here anymore.
Gone a year at least.
Wow. Well, I ordered this
She left,
guy.
came back, lasted about 4 months and left.
Wow, that's news to me. I ordered this just about a year ago, and Annette was my coordinator for that one.
Yeah.
Well, wish her luck if she's not there anymore. But
Wish them luck.
yeah.
All right, well, thanks, guys, appreciate it.
One last point. These make fantastic slope racers for slope soaring. A lot of guys for competitive slope soaring use either F3B, the slightly smaller, heavier ones, or even Explorers in slope racing. I've just seen the videos
So I
of
should
them.
try this on Mission Peak?
Well, I wanted to haul it up there, but Davenport is where they have the big contest, and they do the racing, and it's pretty spectacular, yeah.
EISR.
I was,
EISR, International Slope Race.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, I just thought it would be nuts to take this to a slope, but it
Yeah.
works, huh?
yeah, they use Explorer. They tend to go F3B, but a lot of guys, it's whatever airplane you pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw a pound of weight in it, yeah, throw it off the
Yeah,
cliff.
like I said,
Yeah, it'd work
it's
great.
easy to get, that one go up to 90, yours can probably get up to 120
Miles per hour.
ounces.
No,
Oh,
it's
ounces,
just-
okay.
And if the wind is blowing right 120 miles an hour.
2 kilograms,
I've seen it.
2.5.
Oh, yeah.
I actually don't
2
have a ballast system set up on it. It's funny, maybe I need to ask Rich, but it doesn't, it should have a tube or
It's something
something.
that it doesn't need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I'll probably fly it.
You can get that from, you can get that from Soaring USA.
Easy, Ron, easy.
Yeah, we'll talk about the new one.
I tell you,
That's true. That
But
was
I-
cold,
but I-
man.
I've
Yeah.
got the feature of the lead brick I can give you, you can put it on the outside.
It's an Xplorer 3 weight, Home Depot,
Yeah,
3/4 inch rods. So I've got, these are 9 ounces, and this one's 15 ounces. And on a real windy day, I'll put all 3 in, but normally I just put at most 2 of the white
So you
ones.
made these,
Yeah, they're really simple.
and then how do you brace them inside?
If you look here, there's a bolt, right here, there's a
Yeah.
bolt hole.
Yeah,
These slide in, hence see how the servo barely fits?
yeah,
These slide in and hit a notch in the back that stabilizes them, and you just screw it in from here. It takes a couple of minutes.
and you can do 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah, or you can do 4.
Yeah.
I think this one with 3, it's a real tight fit. Yeah, it goes in.
Just barely, yeah.
Yeah, I can get 3 in, but it's really rough. On yours, they have, Soaring USA sells it's about a 1/2 inch rod, and it has brass and aluminum
Yeah,
that screw together. That's what I use on mine.
okay.
They're a little pricey, but they're amazing. For the other guys things, I gave Rich a set, is they sell, you get an aluminum rod, and notch it and put holes in, or a brass rod, so you get choice of like 10 ounces or 20 ounces, you know.
Stuff them inside of it.
And they go in, you look in yours,
Or aluminum rod and fishing weights.
yeah,
yeah, good dude.
oh, it's different. Oh, got it. See right here, you have you can see there's a screw right here.
Yeah,
And around, it's like about a 1/2 inch, and back here, yours doesn't have it. There's a tube normally, yours doesn't have it, but it's not a big deal.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, but that's, basically if I got something to screw it there.
yeah.
Does he have the plastic little bottom where the rod sits in?
Plastic for
Where,
what?
you know, where it was kind of cupped in the bottom for the rod? Does it, that one have
Yeah,
that?
it actually, it is a
Yeah,
kind of
should have.
a rod shape.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I probably.
yeah, the early
just
ones
needed to
came with
reach.
that.
Yeah, so it'd probably be easy to make some.
Yeah,
but
Probably
I-
still have the rods at home.
But you don't need balance.
Yeah, I know.
Can't use them anymore.
This one, because this one penetrates so well, I rarely go up
Yeah.
above 65 ounces.
I actually moved it out of something today.
Okay, thanks, guys.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, boy, apart.